and welcome back to the All Out Brits Podcast, a podcast where we send the house on all things NFL from across the seas in lovely, warm and sunny England, which it very much isn't at the moment. And you're joining us on a very special edition of the All Out Brits Podcast because for Americans, it's Thanksgiving, which means absolutely everything to us over here in England. And to join us to this amazing occasion, we have a pilgrim in his own right, Mr. Elliot Greenwood. How are you doing, my friend?
Mate, I'm feeling good. So not only as British people did we give the Americans their holiday Thanksgiving, but we also gave them the best and the fastest growing UK-based NFL podcast, All Out Brits Pod. Back Let's get it, boy.
And to partner up with the pilgrim we've got over here, we have brought an Indian along in myself. Maybe not the right one, but as I mentioned before, I'm the Indian that Columbus went to find. And I tell you what, we had a great week in the NFL leading up to this, let alone the Thanksgiving games, which are underway, I must mention. I think the Lions are getting absolutely pulverized by the Packers. They are unbelievably, yeah. I believe when I last checked, it was 23-6, I think. So Jared is not having the greatest game, and he didn't have a great game back last week either. But you know what? We're going to kick off this podcast, and we're going to start something new, which we tried to implement last week, but we're going to get it going again. And we're going to kick off, unusually, in 2-minute drill. And in 2-minute drill, we're going to have Elliot over here summarize everything that went on the week before and try and give us a good little setup for everything that we've got going ahead. So, Elliot, are you ready?
I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Ball in hand.
Absolutely. I'm under the centre.
Lovely.
Ready.
Right, let's get it going. 180.
Right, there we go. So starting off with the Browns versus the Steelers, and the backup got it done for the Browns. Not a good day to beat the Steelers that day. However, since then, their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, is gone. So the sun is shining bright in Pittsburgh. We then go to the Dolphins versus the Raiders. And for once, the Dolphins de-balled out and saved the team. If those two units can work together, they are a really, really, really good team. It was a very poor display by Tua, but Tyreek Hill, tell you what, that man is filthy, absolutely filthy. We go Lions versus the Bears. Lions are 8-2, but Goff showed his critics to be right. 3 interceptions. And again, he's carrying on that tonight. I've not seen what's going on, but they're getting absolutely pummeled. Justin Fields as well, 104 yards on the ground. That made it a little bit more of a game. Jags versus the Titans. We've seen that Levis is solid, and he's a very, very good rookie. And the throw to Hopkins for the TD was very, very impressive. Ridley had an absolute day for the Jags with 103 yards and a touchdown, but Lawrence responded very well after that Niners defeat. Packers versus the Chargers. Love is in the air, baby. 322 yards for the Green Bay man. I criticised him heavily last week, but he seems to be finding his little flow. And hopefully, maybe after this week, he might have me on side. 2 touchdowns as well for him. Herbert, very, very solid again, but he's got no help. No help. That throw to Quentin Johnson, who dropped a wide open pass, which would have basically put the game on ice for the Chargers. It's terrible. He's a very, very bad rookie. He when he was drafted to the Chargers, he actually said that his mum can retire. Well, I've just found out she's at the job centre looking for a new job. She can't stop working. That boy's losing his job soon.
No sexual security whatsoever.
Texans versus the Cardinals. Stroud proved that he is a bit of a rookie, but guess what? It wouldn't be an All Out Brits podcast without the CJ Stroud. He is the GOAT. He still gets it done. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions though. But he was backed up by the running game this week. 112 yards from Singletary, and Tank Dell, an unbelievable game. 1 touchdown and just 1 yard shy of 150. Superb from the young rook. Panthers versus the Cowboys. One man I want to talk about, Deron Bland. What an unbelievable display and what an unbelievable season he's had. He's fourth pick 6 on the season. That has never been done before by someone of his caliber. I think there's only 3 players over the players in NFL history that have managed that. Can he get one more and be in a club of his own? I hope so. And also on display, 2.5 sacks for my defensive player of the year, Micah fucking Parsons. He's so good. He's so unbelievable, so destructive, and he proved to everyone why he is top tier. Niners versus the Bucks. Now, let me tell you, sir. Brock Purdy. He's
Bang,
looking.
bang, bang, bang.
It was a day of freeze for him. 333 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and he just looked very, very solid. The Bucks D looked very good in the first half, I must say, but the offense wasn't anywhere to be seen. But Bosa and Young off the edge together, dangerous. They look very, very good heading into the playoffs. Bills versus the Jets. Zach Wilson has been dropped after this week, and thank God, Canton Boyle take that team to a state where Aaron Rodgers can sort of come back and manifest a way into the playoffs. We'll see. But Allen, again, he won, but he didn't look good. It's bad when your kicker's getting 14 points for you. That's what Tyler Bass did. But Allen, very, very mid-tier quarterback at the moment. The Rams versus the Hawks, a 1-point contest, and a game really which the Seahawks dominated but ended up losing. Penalties have really, really cost them this season. But the Rams, they lost the battle of the mid-teams. They lost the mid-off. Broncos versus the Vikings. Danger, Russell Wilson. That man was cooking. Cortland Sutton is absolutely clutch. And something's going on at Mile High. Something's riding.
It is
Broncos
indeed.
country, baby. Broncos country. But finally, obviously, with the Vikings, Joshua Dobbs was the quarterback. His space shuttle has finally crashed. But it was going to happen at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And then our predicted game of the week, the Chiefs versus the Eagles. The Eagles win, but once again, they don't look that good. They don't look like a team that should be 9-1, but they're getting it done. And I don't really know how, to be honest, because they don't look a team that's formidable. No. And finally, and I'm going to light a candle here, Taryn. I've got a candle ready. And I just want a moment of silence for Joe Burrow. Out for the season. Very, very sad. Very, very sad.
I shouldn't hold up my wrist there. He probably could do with one if you want to donate him a wrist.
You could do. It'd take your arm. Ravens versus the Bengals. Obviously, Burrow's out for the season, but also is it Andrews out for the season as well, I believe. A game where people just went down. Lamar again was solid, but is it the return of OBJ? He had over 100 yards this week, and 3 weeks in a row now he's looking really, really solid. Could it be the return of number 13? We'll soon see.
Wow. You definitely took us to the end zone there, mate. Jeez, that was good.
Thank you, bro. It was a bit of a long 2-minute drill, but
look, we didn't include the timeouts, mate. The timeouts, don't worry about it. We might have said that it was 2-minute drill, but we had a few timeouts in there. Don't worry about it. But you know what? We'll start where you finished off there with the Bengals and the Ravens. Your wife's ex-man losing his wrist. I don't know who'll be more upset, yourself or her. Joe Burrow. That AFC North is looking tasty now because the Ravens, as you mentioned there, OBJ coming back. I think now they're the 2 seed as well. So they look like this could be a good sort of playoff run for them and a deep season for them as well. But let's talk a bit about the Bengals. Obviously, a really shaky start. Everyone was worried about Joe Burrow. And I think the big talking point is obviously him going out for the season, but also going out in week 10, which happened in 2020 when he did his ACL as well. What do you make of the whole situation? Obviously, the NFL a bit upset that they weren't really informed of the injury, and there's obviously him on the sidelines looking like he really wants to play through it, but obviously he just couldn't. How big of a loss is this for the Bengals, but also for the league as well?
I think for me, he's one of the poster boys of the league. Coming out of college, he was such a high draft pick. He number 1 overall, I believe. And since then, he's lived up to the hype and he's more than delivered. He's obviously been to a Super Bowl, and obviously we touched on it. It is a loss for the league, but for the Bengals, I don't see them making the playoffs. I don't see them having a run without him at quarterback. They've got some fantastic talent on offense. Obviously, Jamar Chase, unbelievable player. But it makes a difference who throws to you. You can only catch balls that are good balls, and Burrow balls out. Had a bit of a shaky start to the season, but he was coming back from that calf injury and actually playing some really nice football. You saw what he did against the Niners. He absolutely dismantled that team. A superb defense as well. But without Burrow, I don't see that team doing anything, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. What do you think then? Just looking forward as well, is it this year for the Ravens? Obviously, they've had struggles with Lamar and some injuries as well, but they seem to have got the pieces together. A few rookies doing well, but the Ravens do seem like they're getting points on the board and they seem to be winning games. Do you think that this could be a year where they go deep?
Unfortunately, they play in a division with a man called Patrick Mahomes. So, no, to answer your question, I can see them sort of winning one game, maybe in the playoffs. But as soon as it comes to sort of the AFC Championship round, and Patrick Mahomes is playing at Arrowhead,
yeah,
I don't see them going much further past that at all. If any further at all, I think the talent that Kansas City team has is too much. Now we see that they can get beaten by the Eagles, but when they're clicking, they're unstoppable. And for me, even Lamar playing the way that he's playing at the moment, losing Mark Andrews is a massive blow, massive blow. Someone's got to step up. And I think it's too much to put on the shoulders of Zay Flowers, the rookie. So it's got to be OBJ to step up, and I don't think he's got it in him, to be honest. But we'll see. Time will tell.
We will indeed. And you mentioned Arrowhead. They called it Burrowhead last season, but unfortunately, it looks like it won't be Burrowhead this year at all. But we will go over to Arrowhead because, as you mentioned, Chiefs and Eagles, the game that we had down as what could possibly be the game of the season, and it just wasn't all that, was it? I think it was a bit flat. I think, obviously, Travis Kelce's girlfriend wasn't there at the stadium, which obviously meant that half of America didn't really care at that point. And I think also, we were looking at the repeat of the Super Bowl last year, probably one of the most back and forth Super Bowls you could probably get. But like you said, it just didn't sort of deliver. And where do you think it fell down? Because, the Eagles, we've been saying they haven't been as good as, or formidable as we thought, but they shut out the Chiefs in the second half when it mattered most. So what did you make of the game yourself, mate?
For me, I don't think the Eagles are that good of a team. And it's easy for me to say that when they're sat with only one loss on the season.
Yeah.
But they just don't look that formidable. They look really, really, really beatable. I thought Jalen Carter was superb on the defense for them, nearly getting an unbelievable interception. What that would have been, I don't know if you saw it, but Patrick Mahomes
sliding underneath, crazy,
unbelievable. But once again, what do? They lean on the one play that they know always works for them: the brotherly shove, the tush push. Yeah. No one's found a way to stop it yet, and it's automatic. So I think as soon as someone finds a way to stop that play, I think you stop the Eagles, because you've seen that they're quite a mid. I don't think they're that good. I think they are they're a top tier team, but they're not at the top of that top tier.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning the Super Bowl. But if you can stop that tush push, you can stop anything that they can do, because I believe that that's all they have, really, because it extends their drives to 4 downs all the time. And it's really frustrating to see, to be honest, because it's silly. It's really silly how good that play is. And we've already spoken about it on this podcast, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much more. But I don't know. It was just a really, really strange game, I thought. What did you think to it?
I think, to me, the big thing that stood out is when you look at Kelce and you look at Mahomes and you look at their sort of play together and as a duo, but you also look beyond that and you look at the contracts that they're on. Obviously, the whole premise of their contracts, even though, arguably they're the best players in their positions in the league, is they've taken less so that the team can have more. And looking at that game, the drop catches, the opportunities, you go back to the first game of the season, the drop catches, the opportunities. Is it time, and it's a question that I've been asking myself, is it time that Mahomes gets some help? Do you think, obviously, they get rid of Tyreek Hill, absolutely incredible receiver for him, but they just seem to have gotten by with, rookies. Isaiah Pacheco was an absolute steal. He's incredible, in the backfield for him. But in the receiving core, they just don't seem to have that starlet who they can rely on. I know Rashee Rice has sort of, been formidable in a respect to him this season. Mahomes has liked to throw to him. But do you think it's just one of those things where they're happy to do that? Or do you think they need some marquee wide receiver just to make this Chiefs team absolutely unstoppable? Because I think that's the one thing they're missing, because when the D wants to turn up, the D will turn up, and the offense, it can just change a game within about 2 plays. So What do you think about that?
I think for me, when they did trade Tyreek, the question was there about the receiving core, but the question's always been there about the receiving core ever since he's left. And what's Patrick Mahomes gone and done? He's gone on to win Super Bowls. I think it's 2 Super Bowls now they've won since Tyreek's left. With again, like you said, a very, very poor receiver core, in my opinion. But they've got a man at tight end who can do it all. And when you've got a quarterback who can run around for 20 minutes and throw with your eyes closed with no arms somehow, it doesn't matter. The ball could go anywhere. And even if you have a drop catch one play, the next play, Mahomes is just going to throw the ball between his legs, do a somersault, and suddenly the 14-0 up. It's just one of those things. Patrick Mahomes he's so good that he needs no one around him. And when but then when he loses a game, everyone just, I think, almost over criticizes everything that's going on with the organization and puts them under a microscope. But as long as they've got Mahomes, as long as he's healthy, that team wins football games. And that's all we can see.
Well, we'll move on from the franchise quarterback to the man they say is the system quarterback, who I am extremely enamored by. He broke my heart when he lost his elbow, but God, he's found it again this season. Brock Purdy, you mentioned it in the 2-minute drill. God damn, man. He just gets it done. I think he had a perfect passer rating this week. I think he had the highest passer rating for a quarterback in his first 15 starts. He is absolutely incredible. And we've laughed and joked about how, he's just a dink and dab quarterback. He can just throw through the middle and he can just throw over the 10-yard passes and just get them to the end zone. But he's showing in the past few weeks, he can throw that ball long, baby, and he can get it to players, to Kittle, to Ayuk as well. And you know what? Since the bye, I think the Niners have really started clicking. What did you think when you saw Brock Purdy cooking as always? The man you said isn't that good. How much did it hurt you, mate? How much did it hurt?
I wouldn't say hurt's the right word. What does hurt is you just every single time he does something better than utter dog shit, you come in my ear and just yap about it. That's all you do.
Oh, you did in my ear when Jimmy left, the GOAT of all time. God bless his soul. You were in my ear about it. My heart broke every single time, but now we're back, baby. We're back.
And do you know what? That team is looking really, really formidable at the moment. I think Brock Purdy, you've mentioned the system quarterback, and I do agree with you. He is a system quarterback. I know you didn't quite say those words, but I do believe he is a system quarterback. But what a system he's playing in. Every team wants a quarterback that excels in the system. So just because it's Mr. Irrelevant doing it doesn't make it any less impressive. They just look, as a team, they look so complete the last few weeks since coming off the bye. They look like they're a completely different team, and I can see them really, really pushing the Eagles for that 1 seed. But I don't see them unfortunately getting it just because of how far off they are. But they're going to win their division, and they're going to. I think they're going to get a home game, but it just depends on all the other results. But you see now with the Lions losing, the NFC goes a little bit more wide open, and who knows? Who knows?
It could be a very close sort of finish, definitely in the next few weeks. Another point I think is worth mentioning about the Niners, and I think it's quite interesting. Tom Brady came out this week and he started talking about how the league standard isn't the same as when he was playing, and that certain players wouldn't have excelled. He was talking about Ray Lewis and defensive players, and you get penalised quite a bit in this modern NFL. But some category of players that are thriving are the rookies. Now, I keep thinking about this every single week. Is it the case that, obviously we've seen that Sky here in England have sort of invested in the college football and obviously started showing it, and that seems to be a big thing. But also, do you think that the college level players are now getting better and better, or do you think that the league's actually dropping quality, which means these rookies can come in and hit the ground running, like CJ Stroud, like Brock Purdy as well? Where do you sort of think that stands? Because for me, I just think that part of it is the league going down, but I also think that these rookies are fighting for their lives when it comes to getting into this league, and when they get that chance, they just have to ball out, and I think that's what they're doing at the moment.
I think it is. I think, like you say, it's a bit of a mixture of both. In terms of the league going down in standard, I do kind of agree. I think you've seen. I think the bigger the contract, the bigger expectation for the player. And I don't think a lot of players have really lived up to that. Thinking, if I'm going to think about Dallas here, we signed Ezekiel Elliott to a 6-year, £120 million contract. And after 2 seasons, he was absolutely washed. Players don't play for that long. NFL, it's always drilled into players that stand. It doesn't stand for National Football League. It stands for not for long. People can't be expected at the ages that they are to excel.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, Tom Brady played until he was 40, and he was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But mentioning those rookies, for me, I think that the college system is unbelievable. People care more about that than they do the NFL. You get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people going to these games. These players are made for big moments. Yeah. They're playing crowds in attendances that are bigger than they're playing in the NFL. So it's almost like I always think it's almost like a bit of a downgrade when you go to from playing, for example, at the big Michigan Stadium. I forget what it's called. Yeah. The Big House in Michigan, which is a 100,000 seater stadium, to go and play at, say, like Jacksonville, which can barely get 5,000 people week in, week out. It's a massive difference. Yeah. And it's almost like practice squad standard for what some of these rookies are doing. They have to give up so much and train so hard that when they finally get to the NFL, it's a little bit easy for them. But so in some respects, I do agree with what Brady was saying with obviously the likes of, we don't have a Ray Lewis in the league. We don't have quarterbacks like an elite three like Eli, Peyton and Brady. We don't have that anymore. We've got one man on a mountain and everyone else trying to get there. Yeah. So I do kind of agree a little bit with what he's saying. The league is not as wide open as it once was.
Definitely. I 100% agree with you there. But there is a league that is probably less wide open, which I don't particularly want to talk about. I don't particularly want to move on to. But I feel like we have to. The Fantasy League. We'll move on to our picks for this week.
First of all, Taryn, let's not move on to our picks. Let's talk about our weeks in fantasy. Because me and thee had a game this week, and do you want to tell the people how it went? Go on, tell them now.
Well, all I'm going to say is, unfortunately, I did take the L. It's not the only L I've taken this season. I've taken plenty. But what hurts me more is I decided to sit a man who I've been faithful to for the entirety of the season in Adam Thielen and in Devante Adams. And I thought I'd replace Raheem Mostert and I thought I'd trust Derrick Henry. And I lose by 11 points this week. And whilst I have Adam Thielen sat on 15 and Devante Adams sat on 20. So my heart yearns, my heart breaks. The week AJ Brown gets 1 point, the week I get rid of Devontae Smith is the week I take it out to this man here, and it's not the vibe. It's not.
But you know what, bro? It feels so good. Like I thought that after beating you twice previously this season, that this time just it wouldn't hit the same. But do you know what it does? It feels even sweeter, if anything, knowing that I've all but confirmed your place in the last place playoff. It's giving me confidence to go on and get that 1 seed and go all the way, baby, because I'm cooking. What can I say?
Absolutely picking on someone that has no clue what's going on. So, I hope you enjoy that, mate. You have a bit of grace and decorum next time.
Bro, you've made 40 moves this season on the waiver wire. What are you on about?
I told you the Patriots dynasty will be back. Don't worry about it. But what about the picks then? Let's leave me out of it. My heart's broken enough. What about the picks? I'll kick it off, mate, because I've kept my eye on sort of 2 players. You mentioned one in Cortland Sutton. God damn, he just keeps coming up clutch. And I think we're at a point now where you need informed players. You can't sort of rely on the big names. Obviously, it's one of those points in the season where you might be needing to rack up points, like myself. You might be needing to get those dubs. And I think it's got to be these 1 week wonders that you just come in, get the job done, look at the fixtures, and put them in. And I think another one is the Bears as well. Dante Foreman, Khalil Herbert, DJ Moore if he's still whacking about, but Justin Fields coming back makes the Bears team a good asset because they are scoring. They may be losing, but they are scoring points. And I think for me, I've kept my eye on those. And I might be adding a few little late additions in. What about yourself, mate? What dodgy deals you got coming up this week?
Well, I've already tried to submit one of them.
Yeah, I've heard about your dodgy deal this week already. What was it? Jamar Chase and Luke Thomas for George Kittle and Stephon Diggs. Everybody who's listening, this is the absolute shit show that goes on in our fantasy. And I'm not here for it. We need a new commissioner. Thank you very much and good night.
Well, if you're leaving Taron, I'll tell the people about my picks then. So I've got 2 picks for the Ravens team. One being, who I've mentioned before, Odell Beckham. He's coming off 3 games where he's seen a greater share of the play and really good production. I think he's had an 11, a 13, and a 15-point game in the last 3 weeks. I can only see that improving with Mark Andrews going out. Coincidentally as well, my second pick from the Ravens is Isaiah Likely. He is the man who's going to be stepping up at tight end for the Ravens. And they're going up against a team called the Chargers, who rank 30th against tight ends and 31st against wide receivers. They're not a very good secondary at all. And with Lamar playing the way he is, I can see him getting a lot of the ball. My final pick this week is a player that I've actually gone after myself. A man called Stephon Diggs. Now, he's come off 2 weeks where he's got 6 points and he's playing Philly next week. Then he's got a bye week. So you're thinking, why do I want to trade for him? Why would I not want to go after him when he's obviously not in good form? He's got very hard fixtures and then a week where he's not playing. Well, he does have a hard run, but for the fantasy playoffs, he faces the Chargers, who obviously, like I mentioned, terrible against the pass, and then New England as well, who is a shambolic team. So I think if you can get Diggs, I don't think you got to give up much. I tried not to give up much, and it got rejected. But the guy's got Diggs in his team name. The guy's got it's 50 Shades of Trey. Like you can't have a team without Trey. I understand, but from my point of view, go after Diggs if you can, because that man is going to win you your fantasy leagues. Heard it here first.
God, you're always coming up with these dodgy deals. You know, it's getting silly at this point. We'll move on past that, and we'll get an independent commissioner in next year. What about our punts then for this week? We've got another great week of extreme football, as everyone will be happy to know. And obviously, we know it's kicking off already. And we'll start off with what went down last week. We had a few punts down. I had the Ravens to score under 30 points. Didn't know Joe Burrow was going to lose his wrist, which meant that the Ravens offense was probably out on the field a bit longer. So unfortunately, I didn't get the point for that. But I did get the point for the result. So I'll take the one there. And you, my friend, how did you get on with your punts this week?
Well, obviously, me and my crystal ball predicted that the Eagles were going to win. What we didn't predict was that Taylor Swift was on tour in a completely different continent.
I only know Travis Kelce's girlfriend. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Travis Kelce's girlfriend was on tour in a different continent, and I'm not a Swiftie. I would never know that unless someone slapped me around the face and told me that she was in a different continent. From my point of view, she was there, she was going, and well, she wasn't. She was in South America, in bloody Brazil at the time, in Rio de Janeiro. So I had a stinker there, but I got 1 point for predicting the right result. So I think we're going 1-1 heading into this week. It's getting competitive now.
And careful how you say that Taylor's name, because Karma can be the guy in the Cowboys jersey. So careful, mate. They'll be on to you. So what about this week then? Some amazing games coming up. The 49ers, we'll talk about the Seahawks, the divisional clash. I'd love to predict that one. I'd love to put a punt on there, but I'm going to avoid that. I'm terrified for the game. The game I'm going to look at is actually the Saints versus the Falcons. Big advocate for the Saints, coming off a bye as well. Alvin Kamara, absolutely incredible this season. And Taysom Hill, the man I won't stop shutting up about. He's doing it at tight end. And for me, I think he's going to have over 1.5 touchdowns this week. And I think the Saints are going to get the win this week. So that's going to be my punt for this week.
Well, I'm going to respond to that because I, on the other hand, I'm a big fan of the Falcons. I love the Falcons. And I can see Bijan Robinson going off in that game. So I'm going to go over 1.5 touchdowns for Bijan Robinson.
Oh, okay. The battle. I like that. Anyone else you want to throw out there, mate?
My prediction. So my game that we're going to talk about this week is what I predict to be the worst game in NFL history. It's the worst team in the NFC in the New York Giants against the worst team in the AFC in the New England Patriots. And I predict the game to have under 0.5 touchdowns. I can't see there being a touchdown at all game. I'll be surprised if there's over 5 first downs combined. Those teams just don't get it done. The only hope that they have is DeVito at quarterback. But even then, he's not going to get it done. The O-line is just so bad for they're just two terrible teams. Like shocking teams. I can't tell you how bad they are. Like, they're so bad. They're just bad.
Awful,
mate. Awful.
Just had to get that last awful in there.
I won't say anything more. They are genuinely. It's when the Patriots went to Germany. Honestly, the amount of shit that the Germans have put up for over the years, and they got to put up with that.
Yeah.
God,
I know.
it's so bad.
But we'll move on before you pop a vein in your head, mate. But I do agree with you. It could go down as one of the worst NFL games. And you know what? People have to find out next week if we were right or not when they come back to the podcast. But you know what? We'll sum up. We'll head to the sideline for this week's question. And we'll look ahead also to sort of the week after. But for me, as it's Thanksgiving, you know, and I think it's a good time to reflect on all the amazing things, you know, that we have in our lives. So this week's sideline question is going to be, in the NFL, what are you most thankful for? Do you want me to start, mate, or would you like to take the floor?
Well, I'll just jump in first, and you can carry on. I'm thankful for my podcast co-host.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Because God, honestly, my back hurts from carrying him.
I was waiting for it.
But no, he does a decent job, doesn't
he? Cheers. Thanks for that, mate. Anything else you want to
add? I'm also thankful for the midday kickoffs in America, so I can watch them at 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
and watch a full game and go to bed. I feel great. Like when the Cowboys were on last week, I could watch it all. Yeah. Do you know what? I felt so involved as a fan. Yeah. I've not felt like that in ages. We always kick off at like 1 o'clock in the morning, or 25 past 9. And do you know what? It was just brilliant. So that's what I'm thankful for, Taryn. What about yourself?
Well, I'm not going to say the Brokeback Cowboy that I host this podcast with, so I'll leave him out of this one. But what I am thankful for is a beautiful 6'2" Italian man who really captures my heart. You know, he's a great quarterback. He's got it done. He's one of the greats for the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo. But I won't talk about him too much. But I will say, red zone. I've got to say, red zone is the one thing when it comes to the NFL. Week in, week out, here in England, when we have absolutely no clue what's going on, this is what gets it done. Scott Hansen and his limited toilet breaks really help us through every Sunday night. It's something I look forward to. It's something we look forward to.
He's the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. He is more of a GOAT than CJ Stroud. He is the man.
Absolutely. Like that, the word GOAT gets thrown around a lot on this podcast. But if there's one thing we can agree on is that Scott Hansen is the undeniable GOAT. And when it gets to the witching hour, where wins become losses and losses become wins, my heart starts to go. Oh, it's unbelievable. Absolutely. I think it's one of the greatest experiments ever. It's just so much fun. So good is red zone. It gets everyone going. And 7 hours of commercial-free football start now. Best thing to hear on a Sunday.
The only devastating thing about Thanksgiving football today is there isn't any red zone. And what I saw, it's just individual broadcasts. So that might be,
Candles out again, mate.
Keep the candles on, mate. It's devastating. But you know what? We'll enjoy it regardless. And you know what? I'm feeling so generous, mate. Why don't you come over for dinner? Come over for a Thanksgiving dinner. We'll watch it all together. And you know what? I might even let you pick what game we put on.
Well, there's only one to put on.
Exactly, mate. I've got a deal on it. How much liberty I'm giving you. But you know what? It's been a great podcast again, mate.
Superb, mate. So much fun. Now, I need you to go and put the chicken on because
I need to get. Well, it's turkey, mate. We're not going to upset the Americans. It's turkey. Remember?
Turkey. Go on, then.
Yeah.
But no, like you say, another great pod, another great week in the NFL, and again, just another great conversation I think we've had. And I just think our friendship's just blossoming. Absolutely,
it really
blossoming.
is. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But anyways, thank you everyone for joining us this week on the All Out Brits podcast. And as always, we make sure that by bringing the house, we're sending you back for more. And we hope the next week you join us on the podcast where we call everyone a goat so much that we have enough for a goat farm. If you're American, you have a happy Thanksgiving. And if you're from anywhere else, we hope that you have a happy Thursday. And thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you next week on the All Out Brits podcast.
See ya.